American television writer and producer. I think that currently there's a lot happening in the United States in drama, in episodic drama. There are all these new markets that have opened up, and there's a Wild West kind of feeling because there has already been the movement from network to cable expanding outward, but now we have had this season, we have had Netflix with their own series, and so people are really starting to feel like almost any platform is worth a shot.
Centuries from now, when people watch this footage, who will they see smiling just at the edge of the frame?
So help me God. Congratulations.
In the United States, there's been this history of, we've had the broadcast networks, which are maybe not unique to us, but the history of it has been that has been a free enterprise, commercial supported television, and our nationally supported television has been rather small. You know, our PBS is a very small part of our market. Most of it has been this commercial broadcast network. And certainly within the last 15 years or so, the cable market has grown enormously. And it really has two factors, because it has the cable basic, what we call basic cable, which people can get in a basic package, and it is ad supported. And then we have premium cable, which is not advertised supported. It is, people pay a premium for those channels. And so as you go up the levels, I mean, you would say network broadcast is probably the broadest appeal. Those types of shows go into, they would go into every home. Cable, it's kind of interesting because cable has really, is constantly changing, and changing even today, to where some of the basic cable channels now, I wouldn't say their standards of what they would produce are any different than what's on broadcast television. And they continue to have advertisements. When you get into the premium channels, the HBOs and the Showtimes, and those programs are not interrupted by advertisements, and they are also can be a lot edgier. They can find their niche. They don't mind if they don't appeal to everybody. And they can really try to brand their networks or their platforms to have a certain kind of programming.
Nearly 20% of the country remains undecided.
Mine is the true face of vampires!
It's always shifting what you can do in broadcast versus what you can do in cable. There's always a line that's slightly drifting a little bit more toward being more liberal. Certainly in my career, it's changed a lot. When I first started out in the late 80s and the early 90s, the broadcast channels were very, very worried about language, and there was a big part of every episode, the week of the pre-production of every episode, was a telephone conversation with the department that was called Standards and Practices. I don't know if people still have those conversations or not. I kind of suspect they don't, or they're minimized, because on those conversations you would say, well, you said a bad word on page 10, you said damn, or you said hell, well, we'll let you have one ass if you take away one hell. I mean, this kind of absurd negotiation is unfortunately no longer part of our landscape. I think that everybody's pretty much gotten used to what the language is. I think that I think the biggest difference today between the premium cable channels and the other channels is that I think they can be more graphic with violence. There certainly are no words that you can't say.
Some fuck filthy from the mines, breath rotten from his broken teeth, piss reeking, shit stinking fuck every hole in your body.
What's the matter with you?
I lose patience with cunts too ignorant to know when their lot's improved.
I think that in general you can approach an edgier kind of material. Now the flip side of it that's kind of interesting is that on some of those premium cable channels, it's almost gone the opposite direction, where there's a kind of an editing of like, well, you couldn't possibly take something that was sweet or good-natured, that edgy material is pretty much what they want. I think that it's true that the further out that the premium cable channels have gone, the more they pull the broadcast along with them, and broadcast starts to sees that there's a market there and tries to appeal to it. I didn't go to the upfronts this year. One of the things about when you're working on a currently running television show is very nose to the grindstone, and you tend to be a worker bee, and you've got a deadline, and so you don't sit like I can right now and philosophize about trends in the market. You're trying to figure out, why does Act 3 not work in episode 10? What's wrong with it? So, but I definitely notice as a viewer and as somebody who's always looking toward what to develop next or what might be out there to work on next, I certainly have noticed that there's definitely a trend of the broadcast networks kind of trying to edge themselves into that territory and see if they can expand what the subject matter that they can address, and you know, not just let cable walk away with all of the new and edgy ideas.
Come on.
I don't know, Key. I don't think I can do this.
Just get in there and get a good grip on it and pull the thing.
Will you please just go and see a dentist?
No,
Why not?
Because the last time I went, it cost me $7 grand and my favorite bicuspid. Now climb on, get busy.
Okay, I'm gonna start pulling. Shh.
Yeah.
I've got it.
Uh-huh.
1, 2.
I think that everybody is trying to figure out what is the best new model, and there aren't really models, and everybody at all levels, broadcast and cable, are trying to find different ways to fit different formats. And that's kind of exciting for writers, because there are definitely ideas that you have that fit better into a 13 episode season than a 22 episode season. The feeling that you could follow one mystery, you can kind of imagine the 8-hour segment of that, or the 8-chapter version, or the 13-chapter version. And a 22 episode run for some kinds of ideas might not be as helpful. It just might be a little bit too much, you know, you'd rather have the little river in a channel where it's moving forward quickly than the delta where everything's kind of spread out. That said, you know, it's always been part, these numbers, it's not so new, because these broadcast channels, when they were picking up a new show, they frequently, their first order was 13. And then in success, halfway through the season, they would almost automatically go to a back order of 9. So the fact that new shows are being picked up at 13 order isn't that extraordinary of a move. I think the bigger move is maybe that I think they're picking up things for 13 that they feel like they may just be 13. And there's not an expectation that they will even give them a back order. Now, broadcast being broadcast, if they're wildly successful, they'll want 22. Oh, they'll want 24, or they'll want 26 episodes. I mean, I think the people who are currently doing successful broadcast shows are frequently under pressure to even do more than 22.
A commitment to sacrifice every fiber of your being, every thought, every moment, everything in service to your nation. President Bartlett has done this well and ably, and he deserves nothing less than our humble appreciation and heartfelt gratitude.
Nice what he said about you.
This is the basis on which I make my appeal for your support.
He just picked up 5 million Democratic votes.
My commitment to strive to be worthy.
I think the globalization of TV is very exciting, because I feel like, not since, this might be overstating a little bit, but not since when silent movies were brand new. The silent movie was this art form at the turn of the 19th to the 20th century. It was this art form and this entertainment form that everybody could appreciate because they were silent. And so there was, you know, there was for the first time a kind of a global market. And then we sort of shifted away from it when the talkies came in, and suddenly things were in different languages, and they either had to be dubbed or translated. And somehow I feel like television is getting back to that idea of, listen, there are just some stories, and they're not all. 10 or 15 years ago, the conventional wisdom was that it was, you know, very action-oriented things were best for the global market. They were more like following the movie model. But it seems to me now that a lot of these models, the shows that are jumping over are very humanistic. I mean, it's very, that the In Treatment of the Israeli series that came to the United States, I mean, those were people sitting and talking about their psychological problems in a room together. There wasn't any bells or whistles. It was strictly the human nature was what united those ideas and those people, and I guess those markets, people would say. But I think that the notion that a lot of these formats, or a lot of either the idea themselves or the concept can migrate, is really pretty exciting. I'm on a USA Network show that's called Royal Pains.
Yay, colonoscopy.
It could be an inflammatory bowel disease.
Ew.
The writers work in Los Angeles, but we shoot in New York because it's set in the Hamptons, which is a very beautiful Tony beach community outside of Manhattan. And the concept is a concierge doctor who takes care of these these beautiful estates, these wonderful people. He does house calls at their property. But because he himself is a guy not impressed by money, he also takes care of the local population. And so he sort of has a practice, a very democratic practice. But one of the things about the setup of this show has been that over time we have discovered that it's a show that allows us to travel because he has international clients, because he lives on the property of a wealthy man of mysterious Germanic background and accent, and because of that he travels with him sometimes, or he just for various reasons with various clients goes. And that has turned into something that we have gone to Puerto Rico for Cuba. We have gone to Africa because we had a character become involved in sort of a Doctors Without Borders sort of clinic thing. We have followed him to so far this year we have shot already in Budapest and last week in Tuscany. And we go in, we take only a couple of our actors. We go in and shoot for 2 or 3 days, usually with way too much material, but somehow with a spirit of sort of a run and gun film, student film mentality, and with working with the local production crews. And it's been really exciting for us and successful for us. And the thing that I have not really been able to understand is it's also very money saving for us. We end up, by incorporating a few days like that into a couple of episodes, we actually don't lose money doing that. We save money as opposed to just sitting in New York with our 15 trucks and our drivers and our full cast, and by going abroad for a few days, we can add that flavor to our show, but we can also be economical.
I love you so much. Oh my God, I love you so much. I don't even know what to do with myself.
I love you too.
I was talking to the car.
Tax breaks really affect our show from the very beginning, in the sense that we get tax breaks for shooting in New York. New York is very production friendly, and there's a lot of moaning and gnashing of teeth in LA about how much production has been leaving Los Angeles and California because it doesn't offer those kind of tax breaks. So right within our own country, we are faced with that. But absolutely, when we are looking for venues to shoot, I mean, we are looking for a look that goes with our rather blue skies, beautiful tone of the show that we have. So creatively, we're looking for that, but also our producers get back to us with a list of, here's where we could afford to shoot. And I'm sure that tax breaks plays a big part in that decision.
Is there any way that I could get a ride home?
Of course. Call a taxi.
Royal Pains is a basic cable show, and it has moved into a territory where they've picked us up now for multiple years, but for 13 episodes. So that means that starting with this year, I have some time off. So I will try to develop, and I am pitching ideas, some for miniseries, some for discrete movies, and see what happens, but looking for something to fill in those few months of the year that I will have off now.
Watch this space.
Yeah.